Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Giordano, and today we're going live from the Isle of Skye in beautiful Scotland. Today I'm joined by Lisa Morris and Jason Spafford of Four-Wheel Nomad, and we're going to talk all about their experiences going from 2 wheels to 4 and back again. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Overland Journal podcast.
And a special thanks to Rocky Talkies for their support of this week's podcast. Rocky Talkies are backcountry radios designed by a small team in Denver. The radios are extremely rugged, easy to use, and compact, weighing in at just under 8 ounces. They have a range of 1 to 5 miles in the mountains and up to 25 miles line of sight. The batteries will last from 3 to 5 days, and you can recharge them easily via USB-C right in the vehicle. Our team uses Rocky Talkies, and we also used them recently at the Overland Expo. The next Overland Expo, stop into our booth and say hello and check out the radios for yourself. And as a listener of the Overland Journal podcast, you can get 10% off a pair by going to rockytalkie.com/Overland Journal. Thanks again, Rocky Talkie.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I'm your host today, Ashley Giordano. We're doing this podcast in the field today, and I have 2 special guests with me, Lisa Morris and Jason Spafford, and they are Four-Wheel Nomad on the interwebs.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to have them here today. They are a couple from the UK that's traveled all over the world, and really cool because you guys started out as adventure motorcyclists and now you have 4 wheels.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, welcome. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll start out with just telling the OJ podcast listeners a little more about yourselves and your background.
So Lisa and I met on a scuba diving holiday many years ago, back in 2000. And our passion for diving sort of occupied our time for a good 10 years, and that's where we got our passion for travel from, because we traveled to many places scuba diving and we had a great time. And then after about 10 years we sort of hung the fins up, but we needed something else to sort of focus our minds on, and we still had that hunger for travel. So having watched Charlie Borman and Ewan McGregor do their trip, on the long way round and the long way up, or is it the long way down? No, the long way down. We decided that, they inspired us to, think about travel again, but on motorbikes. Because me personally, I thought logistically it would have been a nightmare to try and own a bike and then travel with it all over the world, all these different countries, but they showed us that actually it was possible. So this idea was formed, and we were going to go and do the Americas on a motorcycle, but Lisa couldn't ride a motorcycle at the time, so she had to learn to ride just before, and then from there we sort of decided we'd do Africa. But with the experience that we'd had through the Americas, we decided that maybe 4-wheel drive would be the best way to, to attack a country, a continent like Africa.
Nice. So there's a fun story about how you learned to ride, Lisa.
There is. Okay, so I was more than happy being Jason's pillion, eating sandwiches, occasionally falling asleep, which I wouldn't advocate, pointing stuff out to him, and generally having a really nice time on the back. It actually never dawned on me once. It didn't hit my radar that I could ride my own bike. I was just content, happy as his pillion. And one day we attended a bike event at the NEC in Birmingham, and I entered a few competitions, and I never won anything. So when I won a runner-up prize to experience some sample sessions on a 50cc automatic, I thought, hey, brilliant, I've won a prize, I'm going to do this. Jason even had quite grave reservations at this point for me just to redeem my free sample lessons, taster sessions. So off I went just for 2 hours and had an absolute blast on this 50cc automatic. It just looked like a toy bike, if I'm honest. I didn't even know really where the engine was. It was so small and brilliant. So I had a blast and said to Jason, well, you know, this is easy. What's all the fuss about? Riding a bike is easy on a 50cc automatic. So then I signed up for the full bike course miraculously passed my test first time, and went from a 125 to a 650. And Jason meanwhile had more reservations growing, just because new rider, had no clue what I was doing. But passing your test on a 125 doesn't necessarily qualify you for a big trip from the southernmost tip of Argentina to the top of Alaska. Long story short, I went against Jason's advice and bought myself a bike on eBay, a BMW 650 GS Pearl, because she was beautiful blue, slightly older lady, needed a bit of nursemaiding, and well, the colour of this bike matched my helmet, which was just the qualifying criteria for me to buy this bike. And Jason spent 3 days and three very long nights taking this bike from very ugly duckling to beautiful swan, and this bike got me from the bottom of the planet to the top. And of course, as soon as I then we adventurized this bike and got it bike ready for the Americas, it suddenly dawned on him that these reservations flew out the window, and he thought, right, okay, we can obviously use your bike, Lisa, as the pack mule, and I can take way more tech. I can take all my cameras, a drone, all the lenses, way more than he anticipated to take. Of course, my bike, she performed a charm on the whole, more or less, and we were then side by side. And honestly, riding beside your partner on your own bike is the most empowering thing that I've ever done to date.
Wow.
Truly, it really is.
Wow.
Yeah, and to ride my own, to explain why we both ride, I think it's just how I'm lighting up just thinking back to the 4.5 years that we spent astride those two bikes.
Yeah, why do you ride?
Oh, it's the best fun you can have with your clothes on. No, that's a really really is the most fun that you can. I just feel so well connected, I guess, to the environment, my surroundings, and it's the activity that really defines the day, the trip. It's not just jumping in a car where you feel like you're perhaps less. Well, for me, I feel a lot less connected when I am in a car. Now that I've done both, I can definitely I feel that I can opine on both of those. When I'm actually astride a bike, I'm outside constantly, permanently appreciating everything that's going on around me, and I feel like I can do that better on a bike than I can inside White Rhino, our truck, our Hilux,
with your windows rolled up and your AC on and your music on, and
coffee cup, all of that. I'm not disputing any of that. All is good. So why do I ride? I just love it. Yeah. Amazing. Why do you ride?
That's a good question.
Because when did you start riding?
I was 17 when I passed my test, and I'd been riding for years before this trip started, and it was on sports bikes. And I enjoyed the speed and the way the bike moved into corners, and the whole biking scene and the camaraderie, and I had friends that rode bikes. But then after a while, for me I wasn't going anywhere. The activity wasn't enough. So to just ride the bike wasn't enough. I wanted another element to that. So I sort of got out of biking for quite a few years, and then, like I said previous, with watching Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman ride their bikes, I had this love for travel, so I thought I could connect the two together. I could travel on a motorcycle. So then I rekindled my love for bikes through my travel. So
very cool. They've inspired a lot of people.
Yeah, they really have. I think they really did pave the way, didn't they? I think they just opened up loads of people's eyes, and almost two of the people who are responsible for creating this adventure motorcycling arena, that some of us now find ourselves in. I just think they're brilliant. They did a really good job.
We literally have, I think it was The Long Way Around on a DVD in our storage back in Canada, and it was one of the first, I guess, travel shows that we ever watched, and we had no intention on overland travel. We had no intention on driving anywhere.
Right.
around the world or to South America or whatever. We had no intention of getting bikes, but yet the story and the relationship and the way that they documented it seems like it's so far-reaching. So it's really cool.
And I think they also showed that the world's not a scary place like we all imagine. I think we all watch too many news shows, and we get this probably an unfair idea of what the world is like, and we just found that whilst traveling on bikes that everybody was warm and welcoming, and and it certainly opened up our eyes to
And this whole world of people that had already gone and done it long before you and Charlie as well. It's just because they had such a huge platform to showcase their trip, then the whole world had access to looking and discovering what they had done. People like Austin Vince, he'd been doing that decades before and having a blast. It's just we didn't know about that until we discovered Charlie and you, and then you kind of enter this world and you're suddenly exposed to all these amazing people. And riding on bikes for us through the Americas, it kind of magnetizes people to you. You've got this vulnerability, haven't you? You've got this. It just, I think, attracts people just to come up and say hello. You're outside, you're on your bike. You're very approachable when you're just right there. And for us, the people that we met, the spirited people we met on that trip in the Americas. It's just not quite the same. We don't seem to draw that same, that incentive for people to come up to you when you're locked in your cage on wheels. It's not quite the same, is it? It's just different. We just found that was one of the biggest draws for me, the biggest incentives to keep riding was just the people that we met along the way. It is everything. It was totally part of the essence of why I rode my bike.
I think sort of adding to what Lisa was saying about this approachability, I think I get the impression that people see you as not only as a bit of a novelty, because there's not every you don't see many people traveling around the world on motorcycles compared to like people like in cars that you'd see
vans,
cars and vans, and everybody's used to that. But particularly if you had a foreign number plate and you're on a motorcycle, people like gravitate. They're curious. They want to come up and they want to talk to you. So we found that being on motorcycles, we had that interaction more with local people because I don't know, maybe that with vulnerability that these guys are on motorcycles, and and a lot of people, I think, particularly in developing countries, they're curious as to why somebody would possibly want to travel on a motorcycle when there's a perfectly good car, that you could travel in. Why would you ever want to travel on a motorcycle? So I think there's an element of that as well.
And as well, to have the whole world, out all your essential belongings, stuffed inside 2 panniers and a roll bag, really made me learn the whole idea behind light and tight packing. To have your whole world on your bike, to be able to do that, and all that other stuff that you've got back home in a few boxes in storage, you won't think about once. Don't miss that at all. So that is so liberating, to just go, everything I need is just behind me.
Yeah,
in my bags.
An expert at minimalism.
We should be.
For sure.
I've still got room for development, for sure.
Everyone does, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it makes you realise what you truly need, and when you're forced to scale down to something very small, you realise actually you don't really need a lot at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about moving into the vehicle, because you went from, well, I guess 4 wheels, but separately to 4 wheels.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah,
we
did. Yeah.
So you went away from the bikes and you went to your.
That was a big travel metamorphosis.
Yeah, it was. One thing I found with traveling with bikes, you do get that feeling that you're more connected to your environment. You're outside. You're getting the smells, you're getting the wind in your face, you're getting the difference in temperature. You do feel a lot more, and we felt a lot more connected than being inside a car. Somebody once said to me that they equated traveling in a bike to a car as a bit like in a car you're watching the movie. When you're on a bike, you're actually in the movie. So in some ways I can relate to that. The decision to move from bikes to a car was when we were traveling to these amazing places. We realized that the limitations of traveling on a bike, you can't carry enough food and you can't carry enough water. So you'd go out into the desert and you'd go to these amazing places, but then you knew that you had to be close to civilization because, hey, we can only carry 6 liters of water each.
Right.
So we'd go to these places and go, we really want to stay a bit longer, but we can't because we physically can't, because we need water and we need food. So so the idea to move to a truck was to be a lot more self-sufficient. So we could carry water for a week or maybe 10 days. We could carry food for a week, 10 days. So we could stay out in these environments a lot longer.
Be self-sufficient, be off-grid, have the fridge, have some solar, an onboard shower, and all the other comforts and amenities that you can now, Wi-Fi and all the rest of it on our truck. Yeah, we kind of wanted to embrace all that. And and experience being off grid for a lot longer, for substantial periods, and then you can just really sink into a place.
So your vehicle is a
Toyota Hilux 2015.
2.5 litre diesel turbo.
Yes.
And it has
it's a white one.
White Rhino?
Yes, of course.
It has a canopy on the back.
Yes.
And a rooftop tent.
Yes.
And what are some other things you added to it so that you could...
So we have a draw system by a company called Gearmate. They're a company in the UK. They make draw systems for the police force and the army. So the draw systems are quite robust, made of metal. And on top of that, we've got a Dometic fridge. Behind that, we have a 46 litre front runner water tank, along with a 20 litre lifesaver jerry can, which comes with its own water filter built in. We also have we have a roof rack, which is again a front runner roof rack. On top of that, we have our max tracks. We have a box where I fitted a cheap Chinese diesel heater, which on cold days we can pump hot air into the tent.
Oh, that's a game changer.
Right?
Yeah, particularly when we went up to the Arctic, like minus 20 Celsius, and then inside the tent plus 20 Celsius. For us, it was the difference between having a miserable time and having quite a comfortable, nice time. Being in a tent with no insulation whatsoever. And then...
Which is an iCamper.
Okay.
A Sky Camp full berth tent with a memory foam mattress.
Ooh.
With a bit of floor power, LED lights. It's really comfortable in there because it's can accommodate 4 people. It's so spacious for 2 of us to spread around, not be on top of each other, and just have a spacious environment up there to live, sleep, work, and other things.
And then we have a shower unit by a company called Jolka, and that's great because as long as we've got a water source close by to the truck, we can shower, which again was an issue we found sometimes when we were out in the middle of nowhere, that we had to then go back to civilization to get the shower. Now we can stay out for longer periods as long as we've got some kind of water source, a river, stream, lake, something like that. So that was a great addition that we've just added to the truck. We have the shower cubicle as well, which again we need for the shower, which is also acts as a privacy tent should we need to go to the toilet and there's people around.
That's a direct 4x4 UK company that have given us the tent. Then there's a Guzzle H2O.
Yeah, so water filtration, again, if we are close by to a water source and we can now pump the water directly from a river or stream directly into the water tank, whereas before we'd have to carry the water in the lifesaver jerry can, then filter it through that and transport it into our main water tank. Now we don't have to do that. We can pump it straight into the water tank, which is a lot quicker.
The canopy is RSI Smart Canopy, a South African company, and they've given this is a kind of whole install plug and play with 2 gull wings, and one of the gull wings is like a plug and play installed kitchen. There's a whole fully equipped kitchen that comes in one of those, which you thought, I think, was I think you thought initially we wouldn't use that, and we use that daily.
It looks very well organized.
Some place to completely store all those, all your pots and pans and all your utensils and things like that.
That one section is almost like a foam cutout portion. Really interesting, where the glasses have their own little cutout, and the plates and the pots, and it's pretty genius.
G&T glasses.
Very important.
All the essentials now on board.
Yes. That's great.
It's great because then they're not going to rattle around. It's a great system. We have also the wheels. We've upgraded the wheels from the original wheels, which meant that we could actually have larger tyres on the vehicle, which also helps with being off-road. The larger circumference tyres make those bumpy roads a little less bumpy. We have BF Goodrich tyres, K2Os on the bottom. K2s. Is that what I said?
K2Os.
Oh.
I think because you're thinking of Guzzle H2O. Rolls off the brain, rolls off the tongue.
And then we have a winch on the front by a company called Goodwinch.
It's a good winch, isn't it?
It is a good winch. It's a very good winch.
We've used it way more to help other people who get stuck in perhaps like the Black Sand in Iceland. We've rescued a ton of people in their hire cars than we've actually ever needed it for ourselves. We've never needed it, really, touch wood, but it's there. It's nice to pay it forward, though, isn't it?
It is.
And have things like that. Yeah, you can just get many family out of a scrape.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this build, when you, I don't want to say finished it, I'm assuming, it's always a process, but anyways, you have this 4-wheel drive vehicle now. How does that change how you go forward and where you go with it, and which trips you planned and executed?
Well, for example, Iceland. We went in the fall, which on a motorcycle would probably be quite challenging because, of course, the snows are starting to arrive, particularly in the interior. You're further away from civilization, as I said earlier. We can then stay out for a lot longer, which means that we can actually explore further into places like the interior of Iceland, whereas on a bike, particularly at that time of year, it would be pretty challenging, if not impossible. So because now we're in a 4x4 with all this capability and the fact that we can sustain ourselves out in the field for longer, which it meant that we could go and then explore further into these places which would ordinarily, you couldn't really do realistically on a motorcycle.
And out of season.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that trip, because was that part of an Arctic
trip, or
was that separate?
That was separate. So that was before the pandemic.
2019.
Yeah. So we decided at the time that we would do a trip from the bottom of Africa to the top of Norway, and we called it Cape to Cape, so Cape Town to Nordkapp. Because of the pandemic, that got cancelled, but when things started opening up, we then did the trip up to the Cape, Nordkapp, sorry. So we went up to the top of Norway, came back down again, went across to the Faroes for 2 weeks, and then carried on to Iceland for 2 months. So we travelled on a ferry, so it took 4 days to get to Iceland with the truck. So 2 days to the Faroes, and then another 2 days to Iceland, and then the same on the way back again. So, but Iceland was just incredible. It was amazing. It's certainly a place I would love to go back again.
So I don't know why we started actually going up to Nordkapp when we did want to start in Cape Town, didn't we? But we decided, well, being in the UK, it just made a little bit more sense to get that European leg out well, just to start with that leg really, I suppose. And so yeah, in 2019, before COVID hit, we then ventured off, because we'd finished our bike trip in 2018, and found then, being in the truck, why not just go up to Nordkap first and then ship the truck out to South Africa, to Cape Town, and then we were just gonna mix the whole trip up on its head and then ride up through the African continent back to where we started. However, we only got as far as Nordkap, and then when we took the truck back to the UK to swap out the cold layers for the warm layers and make it Africa ready, that's when COVID hit. But unfortunately, by that time, we'd already shipped our truck to Cape Town. COVID hit round end of March, didn't it, 2020?
Yeah.
And our truck was on a ship making its way to South Africa. That was an expensive exercise.
No.
Hey ho, you just chalk it down, stuff happens, right? And so we had to turn that truck around. As soon as it made its way onto South African soil, we turned it around to get our property back. It came back to us later on in 2020 when COVID hit.
How were the logistics getting it back to you? Was that complicated during that time? No.
It just took longer.
Sure.
Yeah. I think everything just took longer, didn't it? But it was as easy to bring it back as it was, I guess, to send it out. It just, hit
expensive.
It was expensive.
To go, well, your vehicle went.
Yeah. It had a great time.
Yeah.
It didn't send a postcard, but it still had fun. It made it. It did Cape to Cape, didn't it? Actually, it did do that. I think we didn't, but it did.
Yeah, it was sat on somebody's land for 2 months, and I think, like all of us, we thought, this is going to be 2 or 3 months and everything's going to be back to normal. And when I realised that this wasn't going to go away anytime soon, I rang up the guy who was looking after the truck on his land.
Oh, was it Oasis Overland?
No, it was a guy called Duncan from African Overlanders.
African Overlanders, oh right, yeah.
And I said, look, you're going to have to ship it back. And he was going, are you sure this is going to be over soon, And I went, no, that's not the impression I'm getting. I said, look, you're just going to have to ship it back. So he shipped it back, unfortunately, but, it's still up there. It's still a trip that we still intend to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
great stuff.
Mm.
Yay. I was going to ask about your Nordic trip and what things stood out to you or were unexpected or that you learned while you were in that region that you didn't anticipate.
So that was this year then, January and February, taking the truck to the Nordics, Norway, Sweden, Finland, starting out shipping, from the UK over to Hirtshals in Denmark, and then spending the majority of the time in Norway.
One thing I didn't take into effect was in winter they only plough the roads, which means that we couldn't physically get the vehicle off the road. So camping was a problem.
Particularly in Finland, more than Norway actually.
Yeah.
Particularly in Finland.
So you'd see these beautiful places, but you couldn't get off the road, and because there's always a big snowbank.
No.
So so that was not something I was expecting, to be honest. But
how would you know? I guess Where did you end up camping then? Like, how did you pivot from?
We camped in places that we would probably not have ordinarily picked, like car parks in small villages or towns, or on one time when I really, out of my own frustration for not being able to get off the road, I decided I would punch my way through a snowbank because it looked like there was a flat space for me to camp by a lake, and I went straight into a ditch.
No.
And I had to get a local to
use
pull
their
us
winch.
Out. To pull us
out.
So that was the first and only time that I attempted anything sort of off-road. So I learned my lesson that really I should be testing where I'm going to drive first by getting out and checking before I just commit. But luckily we did it in a village and there was local help, so it wasn't a problem.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
You guys seem to really like to travel in the winter time.
which isn't how we built the truck at all. We built really the truck for Africa in warm climate. And yeah, you're right, we have tended to gravitate towards
Cold places in the winter.
including Scotland, when it's not always the warmest, is it? Cold, wet, windy conditions. And with our truck, you can't cook inside. You can't do anything inside. There's just too many drawers and things. There's no indoor living space apart from the rooftop tent, which we find when it's too windy, you can't even go in there either. So we have had quite a few nights where we've just been forced to camp in the double cab, rolling the seats back, which is like being on an EasyJet flight, but rubbish. You kind of recline the seat like this, and we've slept quite a number of nights doing that. That would not suit most people. Yeah, with the great big whopping sleeping bags to stay warm. It's been warm enough, it's just not the most comfortable night's sleep, is it? So it's a bit more okay for me. I can just curl up into a fetal position, but for Jace, and he's always sleeps on the driver's side, so he's got a steering wheel and pedals in the way. And I once swapped with him to try and be nice, and I thought, never again. It was awful. That was awful.
So you have really good sleeping bags, it sounds like.
Yeah, we
I'm
do.
assuming, well, you have the heater.
Yeah.
We're really excellent at making
gear.
one-pot meals inside.
One-pot meals, yeah, I was going to ask.
7.5 minutes and we're done and dusted, back in the truck.
Amazing.
When it's like minus 26.
Yeah.
That was interesting on that Arctic trip. When, we would oftentimes be outside around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and all the cooking oil had frozen, the milk had frozen, like all the food. And there's no point in keeping the fridge on because it's just, you're living in a fridge. But then everything freezes eventually, even inside the fridge. So that was a challenge.
So you don't even switch the fridge on. In fact, this fridge is actually used to keep your food warm.
Right.
Or warmer than the surrounding outside temperature. So you wouldn't even switch it on.
You'd have to keep random items in your fridge because that was the insulate. Or, just pull things into the double cab. We soon dialed in and thought, what should we travel with inside the day so that it's not rock solid frozen at night?
Yeah, like water.
Water's
assuming
a
tea towels.
Yeah.
Yeah, just drying your pots. You can't dry pots with kind of blocks of ice that are masquerading as a tea towel.
No.
What do you call them? Tea towels?
Yeah.
Dishcloth.
Dishcloth.
Yeah.
But a towel to dry your pots. Yeah.
Built by off-roaders for off-roaders. Onyx Off-Road's Route Builder provides a new solution to your adventure planning with a Snap to functionality. Just draw a line with your cursor and the route will automatically snap to the road or trail. Hit save and the route will sync to your mobile device. Now you're ready to hit the trails. Go farther with Onyx Off-Road's Route Builder.
Do you guys have any life hacks for winter camping?
Don't go. Stupid idea, isn't it?
But you keep going, there must be something that draws you to it.
Don't rely on your technology, for sure.
The electronics.
Yeah, because if anything fails, it's great having a diesel heater, but if it fails, you really do need, seriously, in case you get into trouble, you need a sleeping bag that, is going to, be good enough for those temperatures. So we would always have the best sleeping bags we could afford, the ones that went down to the lowest temperature. So if the proverbial poo hit the fan, then we're not going to die out there because if the diesel heater packs up, the car stops working and it's not the heater in the car's not working, we could at least be comfortable to a lesser extent. It'd just be nice to be comfortable as well,
True.
even if things don't
Foot warmers for me, and hand warmers for inside your gloves. Foot warmers were just, this time, I wish I'd had those in Iceland and the Faroes, but this time, in Norway when it is minus silly, foot warmers and hand warmers that, stay hot for 8 hours. Oh, I was just happy this time. I wasn't thinking about the cold and not being present because I was too cold. I was really there. I was really enjoying this. It was brutal but beautiful, and because I was warm, my extremities are warm, I could keep functioning and really absorbing what was around me, really enjoying where we were.
Yeah, that helps a lot, just taking the edge off.
It did, yeah. And obviously we had the right gear as well. We had some Arctic gear, so we could stay really comfortable.
Nice.
Yeah.
What other winter hacks did we discover?
Well, water was always a problem, keeping it from freezing.
And then filling up sometimes. I don't know if that was an issue for you at all, but...
So that's the problem, because of course where we were going, all the lakes are frozen. So...
We weren't outdoor showering on that trip.
No.
We went to swimming pools, leisure centres, and just paid for a shower.
Yeah, so wet wipes.
5.
5 is a shower, 8 is a bath, apparently.
But not when they're frozen. Which they often were, because I used to keep them out the back in the drawer.
No!
I did in the beginning, yeah.
And you learn quickly on those trips.
Yeah. The showers, unless you want to do it the Swedish way and jump in a frozen lake, then you're going to rely on swimming pools, leisure centres, that kind of thing that provide showers. We've often done that where we've gone to these places, paid a few euros to have a shower, and then you just don't shower between those.
Yeah.
At
least you're not sweaty.
No, well, that's the great thing.
Cold all the
you're
time.
not sweating, so you don't need a shower so much.
True.
Yeah.
So you guys are from the UK. How much adventuring do you do in your own kind of backyard? Because obviously Scotland seems to be a really special place for you. You keep coming back. Obviously, good reason why.
Yeah.
What about? Yeah.
Well, we're lucky because we've got the whole of Europe as well.
True.
On our doorstep.
Very close.
So we've just come back from a trip down to Spain and Portugal, France.
How do you get out of here?
So,
2 ways.
Okay.
One of 2 ways.
Yeah. So there's the Eurotunnel.
The Eurostar, which is a train, just takes you through the tunnel
with your vehicle.
With your vehicle,
35 minutes.
Wow.
I know.
How much is it?
I don't know.
Are you looking between?
£100.
No, it's a little bit more than that. I think maybe £150. What? Maybe $200, something like that, roughly.
What, with truck?
With the truck and,
with the vehicle
and two
and
people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course there's several ferries that will get you across to the continent depending on where you want to get off.
Yeah. Right, straight to Spain.
So you can go straight to Spain.
That was further, so we paid more, and it was a 2-night crossing. We paid a bit more just to cut out a little bit of driving that we didn't want to do, and went straight to
Santander, which is on the north coast of Spain. But there's ferries over to France, there's ferries over to Denmark, there's ferries over to the Netherlands. So, we've got easy access to Europe.
But yes, we do keep returning to Scotland. And especially as restrictions were starting to lift through lockdown, then it was just a really great place to naturally socially distance by coming up here. It was an easy place to come to and just scoot off into the Highlands for a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
and get
dramatic
out of,
landscapes are hard to...
Get out of Costerdale living room.
Right. Yeah.
Whilst World War bog roll was going on.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in this area there aren't necessarily a lot of off-pavement trails except for green laning, which I don't know if you guys have... I'm sure you've experienced green laning at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about it.
The thing with England and Wales is, if you come up to Scotland, you have this thing called the right to roam, which means that you can camp anywhere in Scotland, not in a vehicle, but you can walk anywhere, you can camp anywhere, and as long as you're not making yourself a problem, you can park your vehicle by the side of the road and nobody's going to bother you. You can camp anywhere you want,
providing you leave a respectful distance from, say, the residents who are in their houses. As long as there's a respectful distance between you and the houses, then it's generally fine, unless
it's a specific area or there's a sign.
Correct.
Or because there are certain areas in Scotland like Loch Lomond.
Yeah, very
specific, right?
Yeah. Unless there is a local restriction, you have this right to roam. It obviously doesn't comply everywhere if you've got a vehicle, but if you want to walk across even private land in Scotland, you're allowed to actually travel across by foot, and you're allowed to camp, not obviously in people's gardens, but private estates, they can't stop you traveling across their estates by foot and camping.
Wow.
So unlike England, which it's not possible. So
Right.
it's a lot harder to camp, whether that be in a ground tent or in a truck. In England, it's less accepted.
Right.
So that's one of the unique things about Scotland, which is the reason why we come up here a lot, is this accessibility to be able to just park up somewhere and camp, and people aren't gonna. They might ask you to move on politely, but legally you are allowed to,
Right.
camp. So yeah, and of course it's so beautiful. So why wouldn't you come up here? So,
Yes.
and it's so close to where we live. So 6 hours up the motorway, and you're in this amazing landscape.
With a population that is, there's such a massive disparity between how many of us are living in England versus how many people are here in Scotland. It's a real draw. It's a real incentive to be in Scotland, because there's hardly anyone here in the rural areas. It's just so easy to get away from people.
Yeah.
Unlike England, it's much more difficult.
Yeah.
It feels overpopulated there.
Really, the landscapes are quite stunning, and not just stunning, I don't know.
It's quite dramatic,
it's
isn't
dramatic.
it? Yeah.
Yeah,
A
quite
lot more
dramatic.
dramatic compared to our beautiful, pretty pockets in England.
Yes.
I feel it's a bit more dramatic here in Scotland.
And even though
Yeah.
there's not as much of an off pavement culture in this area, I haven't felt like it's been lacking in any shape or form. We're
No.
perfectly happy driving on the pavement, because
You are in and
there's
amongst,
so
aren't you?
much going on and so much to see and learn and experience here that just,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
No, because you've got this wild landscape, and you just happen to have a sealed road running through it. So you still get that feeling that you are in this amazing wild place. Down in England, where obviously it's a lot more developed and a lot more built up, you certainly lose that sense of being out in somewhere special. There is, like Lisa was saying, there is beautiful pockets of England, but it doesn't have the drama that Scotland has.
Which means the weather.
And the midges.
Yeah, the midges. Yeah,
And
temporarily.
they're
Sorry.
Oh yeah, they're here. It's about this time of year when any day now they're just going to descend in the masses. So usually around the 1st of June, I don't know, we're on the 24th of May. We're
It's a little early,
we're bracing
but-
ourselves. Yeah, any day now.
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad yet.
No.
For the North American listeners,
Yeah.
midges they're kind of like no-see-ums.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
that's
bite, and do they bite in the mass? In their hundreds and thousands. I think Richard's had experience of midges. But yeah,
There's
the midge repellent, which is like a natural blend, is at the ready.
awesome stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the midge nets.
midges
Yes.
are. I mean, I've never seen one up close, but they must have the largest jaws in relation to their body size of any animal on the planet.
Probably.
But the great thing is they're so small, and they can't fly against relatively
Light breezes.
light breezes. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So anything
Yeah.
above 2-3 mile an hour, and they go to ground, so it's not a problem. And Scotland is usually pretty windy,
Yeah, on the whole.
so most days you don't need to worry about them. But on one of those rare occasions when it's a beautiful evening maybe, and
you
there's
want to
no
sit
wind,
outside,
and you
don't
want to sit outside, then they can be a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But only in the spring and the summer months. After that, they die off. And so my tip for anybody coming to Scotland is get here before May.
Yeah, no, I don't think they affect people in spring. It's kind of like June onwards, isn't it, for the summer?
Yeah.
Sorry, summer doesn't start till the 21st of June.
Mm.
Yeah. anyway.
What are some places in Scotland that you would recommend, like your favorite spots here?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Scottish Highlands on the west side.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we want to give all our secrets away?
Yeah, do we want to give them all away?
Should we just say Scotland?
A few places.
Yeah, there's a few places. Obviously, the Isle of Skye
Mull.
is beautiful.
As well.
The Isle of Mull.
Yeah. I love it.
What are some things on these islands that you love the most? Like, what are the things that bring you back here over and over again?
I think the dramatic landscapes, the wildlife. You know, we have sea eagles now up here that have been introduced that were extinct, but they've been reintroduced over the last few years into Scotland, and they're doing really well. So these huge eagles that, if you're lucky enough to spot one, are really impressive. Deer, red deer. We've got lots of red deer.
Yeah, and stag.
Yeah.
We even have red squirrels over in the Cairngorms. And they're really rare. I totally love red squirrels.
Yeah, because their American cousins got introduced to the UK, and they carry a squirrel pox, which unfortunately decimated the red squirrel population. So we have them in little pockets, and Scotland is one of their strongholds. So you know,
wildcat here.
Yes, wildcat.
Are there wolves in Scotland?
No wolves and bears, unfortunately. Okay. So if you get
a nasty nip from a badger though.
A badger.
No, we don't really have to worry about lethal predators here. Yeah.
What about the hairy coos?
Hairy cow?
The hairy coos.
The
Highland cows. Yeah.
This lassie's trying her accent again. She's trying it out. We were like, what? The coos.
Yes.
A lot of Highland cows with
very
the same colour hair as
hair.
me.
Yeah.
Yep, my kin.
Yeah, they look like something that's been left over from the Ice Age.
The morning after the night before.
Yeah. they look quite menacing with their big horns, but actually they're quite docile and quite sweet, especially the calves. But we get lots of them here.
We've got a ton of bird life, not just bird of prey, but yeah, it is a really biodiverse spot here in Scotland.
Lots of whales, dolphins, otters. Yeah, so if you're into wildlife, this is certainly the place to come.
Tons of flora, tons of beautiful wild flowers.
So a lot of the things you're describing have shown up in your stories and your photography, and you guys are regular contributors to Overland Journal and Expedition Portal, have been for quite some time.
Yay.
And in fact, you guys were Overlanders of the Year.
Oh, yes. We were really excited to receive that. I'm very surprised as well.
Yeah,
very
really
cool.
humbled.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about, so Lisa does most of the writing, maybe all of the writing, perhaps, and you're specializing in photography
Yes.
and video?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have an exclusive division of labour.
Visuals, words.
Yes.
Done.
So how do you work together as a couple while also working together creatively? What does that process look like?
I will usually nudge Jace to capture a certain type of image, set of visuals for a story that I'm thinking of writing. Now we're going to go here, Jace. I really want to write a story about this. Bear that in mind. Get your camera out. Off you go.
Those are pretty general, great directions.
Yeah.
You love your drone too, so you'll get that up.
Yeah, I've never
videos.
attempted to put pen to paper. Maybe maybe I'm really good at it. I've never really tried, but I think it works for us. It's where my passions lie. Lisa loves to write, so we've never felt the need to sort of cross-pollinate, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't think I could spot really a good composition if it jumped out and gave me a haircut. I'm really not visual at all. I'm way better writing about something. That's where my skill set lies. My strengths, my interests, my creative outlet stops my brain going to mush. And Jason's all about, he wants to be behind the camera, use and abuse me for scale. He does that all the time. And I'm fine with that. As long as I don't look at the camera. Stop doing that, Lisa. No one wants to see you looking at the viewer. Sorry.
Are there things that you guys have learned over time with shooting and writing that have made the process easier for you now and maybe a little bit quicker or more efficient?
I think because I've learned patience over the years, I'm happy to stand in one spot, not look up at the northern lights, stay stock still and be a statue for you, however you need me, for as long as you need me to. I think 2 hours is about my limit, and then I'm like, we're done, we're so done. Whatever you haven't got now, it's too bad. So I think that helps, that I'm prepared to do that for you. And, you know, do that throughout the day or throughout the night. Lisa, it's 2 a.m, we're in Alaska and it's
I think, yeah,
midnight sun, come on.
I think Lisa now knows exactly what kind of shot I'm looking for. So there's less direction, if you like, which can, especially if we're a long distance away. I mean, maybe we should invest in walkie-talkies.
I think we have done in the past,
yeah,
and that really helps, doesn't it? To the
but,
left, to the right,
yeah,
up, down.
Yeah. So I mean, if
Well,
like I
business.
want to put Lisa in a landscape, then, you know, generally she might be quite far away, and then communication can be quite difficult. But if Lisa knows exactly what I'm looking for, then she can just, it saves a lot of time for sure. So yeah, I think that maybe, you know, over the course of the years we've been producing content, it does make Lisa sort of knows what I'm looking for, and makes life a lot easier.
And springboarding off that as well, knowing that me in shot is one type of shot, and then me out of shot, the exact same shot, is also just as valuable. You know, for various publications such as Overland Journal that don't need a person in the shot for all of, you know, to tell the story.
Right.
So yeah, to do it twice, do that kind of shot twice.
Have a variety
Yeah.
of angles.
And getting out of that vertical portrait shot mindset for Instagram, getting out of that mindset and going, I don't want to do this for Instagram. This is for me. This is for personal. This is for a certain publication. To remember also, yeah, to not take everything a portrait. Yeah, you know, that's I think a valid point.
Do you usually do a trip? I mean, this is going to be different because you've done long-term trips and shorter-term trips. And while I'm assuming on the long trips, you're writing throughout. But are you, I guess my question is, when you have an idea about an article, are you thinking about it ahead of the trip if it's a shorter trip? Or is it usually happening after you've already done it?
Could be both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah. And to have a notebook on me at all times, or to just punch some notes into the phone, and just keep jotting down those ideas as they're emerging.
And is it usually a place that you're inspired by, or could it be, I'm sure it could be anything, but, or something that has happened?
Yeah. I can go for both, really, just to write up a travel story about an interesting place with some history, or if some unusual occurrence might happen, so some drama takes place, and you know it has done in the past many times. That then becomes the story, is the very unexpected turn of events and how things just go from good to bad to ugly, and then how you've reacted to that situation, and all the drama that comes with, you know, travel, all the high highs, low lows, the whole caboodle.
What are some things about this way of travel that suck?
4-wheel drive or 2 wheels?
Ooh, both.
Oh,
like what are some hard things? Because we tend to be like, this is great.
Yeah.
We have this freedom, and we're doing
Right.
this and seeing this, and of course on Instagram people are seeing beautiful shots, and you're out in nature, and you're like,
seeing the
well, you don't
highlights.
know that I've pooped in a bag, or you don't know that.
So the reality then.
know
So you
what
want
I
the
mean?
reality.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Two
I
wheels and
I think as we know that there's no perfect vehicle. So as I said earlier, you know, the drawbacks of being on a motorbike are that you can't stay out in these wild places as easily as if you're in a truck, that you can carry more supplies. The bike makes you feel, me personally, makes me feel more connected to the environment.
just the things that suck.
Just, you know, the vibration through the bars, you know, for
Yeah.
example, which, you know, maybe some people have not considered, is is the connection to the ground that you're traveling on.
That's
There's less stimulation to the environment that you're in when you're in a truck. But on the flip side is when you do get off your bike or out of your truck.
You're a human tuning fork.
Yeah, I'm a human tuning fork, yeah.
You're like this all night, just tingling, aren't you?
As a person who's never ridden a bike, I would never have thought about, and I feel like I'm getting flashbacks to the podcast with Jeremy and Elle where they were saying they're on their bike holding on the handlebars like this for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I never thought about that, the physical act of riding.
Yeah, because it's all like your sensors. They're feeding you information all the time. It's not just about the wind on your face, the temperature, the smells. There's also like you're connected to the ground you're traveling on through the bike, the vibrations, the kind of ground you're traveling on.
And in the early days on our first bike trip, when I was a brand new rider, I would hang on way too tight, white knuckle type scenario. And I remember one stint of riding one day with maybe got 250 off-road miles under our belt on really good dirt, but I found it really challenging because I'd just not done it before. And I actually developed a muscle here on each arm, and it was like this bump, this new muscle I'd never seen before on my pipe cleaner for an arm. And I was so proud of this little muscle that it just popped up on both of these arms. I was so proud of it, but actually I was exhausted, totally broken myself. I was riding in all the wrong ways possible. Jason's like, why are you holding on this tight? And I was wearing my own handlebars, smooth, clean, like there should have been grip to them, but I just wore them off because I was just holding on for dear life, scared as heck, on the really good dirt, on really easy to ride, compacted dirt. And over time you should just loosen up and let it go.
Yeah, experience.
Just took a long time. Yeah, I'm not the most natural rider, which is probably why Jason used to call me Captain Slow the whole time. And, oh, come on, princess, I can't ride your bike for you. I'm like, the motivational school of Jason. Is this why we never hear the term male intuition?
Oh, no.
So yeah, that was a challenge in the beginning, just letting go. And yeah, like you're saying, taking care of your morning ablutions while in the wild, that's the thing you have to just get over yourself with and just take care of. And our truck as well, because you can't be inside it, then we have to cook, drink and eat outside permanently. And we're still working on trying to find a really good tent awning solution, which means, yeah, if it is absolutely persisting it down, you still got to cook outside. So that, yeah.
The elements.
Yeah. No, I think we've just about found now a way to get ourselves under cover so that we can take care of that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's really tough with wind, especially.
Wind. The other day I was chopping my pak choy and it all just flew off into the distance, and same with my spinach. I was like, what a royal waste of time. I'm just watching my spinach fly away. I'm like, we're looking forward to that spinach. Whoosh. Like confetti spinach. Great. It's small struggles, really.
I was going to say the realities of overland travel.
Yeah.
Your spinach flies away.
Yeah. What else sucks? Oh, the constant companionship. No offense. Honestly, that is the best and the worst thing. We've been travelling together on and off since the year 2000. We've been together the whole time. So that is the best and the worst thing. When you're hungry, you're just tired, you're starving, and automatically, it's not my fault, it's going to be, yeah.
The only person.
The other person there.
Yeah, you have to
gets it.
remind yourself,
Yeah,
am I
for sure.
tired and or hungry? Yes, it's not him. It's not all him. It's mostly him.
Because he's there.
Yeah, who else am I going to take my frustrations on? But yeah, that is tough, isn't it? Sometimes
Yeah,
you
it
just
is.
don't get a break from each other, so you have to have a certain number of strategies to go off, take yourself away, go for a walk, offer a snack bar. That's somebody else's strategy. When the other person offers a snack bar, that's the code for saying you're being a challenge right now. Would you like a snack bar? Stop being a challenge. Thank you. I love that.
And the delivery
Yes.
of that
Yes.
snack bar has to be.
It speaks volumes.
Yes. because you don't want to make somebody
You would just come
more
out.
challenging because you've told them that they're being challenging.
Yes. Yes, that is a tricky one. How do you get around that one? Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Although, really positive byproduct of when I was really, when I got overly frustrated on the bike is I'd actually start caring a whole lot less in the technical, in the loose stuff on the rides that, were
So you'd be angry.
technical.
So you'd be angry, and she would loosen up,
I'd ride like a pro.
and she would ride better when she was
I'd be
angry.
fishtailing. He'd be sometimes struggling to keep up with me, but only those times when I was really annoyed, just at anything or something. I was just tired, and I just wouldn't care, and off I went. And it was really frustrating for Jace because he's questioning, why can't I ride like that all the time? That would be brilliant, woman. Just crack on. But no, only when I was a bit frustrated. It happens, right? Yeah, so if you learned to ride a motorcycle and got really annoyed, you'd ride like a pro. I'm sure of it. It's all
hope so.
emotionally driven though, which isn't good, is it? I'm like, not consistent.
So speaking of riding, you have a brand new plan. So you've gone
Yes.
bikes, 4-wheel drive, and now
And now we're going back to bikes.
so exciting.
So we're just giving White Rhino a bit of a rest for a while. We've decided that we want to go back to bikes for a while. It's nice to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're going to go back to North America, back to South America, across to Africa, and then back up into Europe.
Big trip.
So basically
Big
a
square.
rough square. And we're going to call it the Mega Transect. And this time we're going to video it. So we have been a bit late to the party, but we're going to do a YouTube series starting when we arrive in North America, which should be about the middle of July. So we will start producing a fortnightly video from mid-July onwards, and then that might then go to a weekly video.
And the YouTube channel is called 4-Wheeled Nomad, because technically 2 bikes is still 4 wheels. So
Nice.
it still makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
4-Wheeled Nomad. All spelled out.
So what made you decide to go back to the bikes
Ooh.
after you have all these creature comforts?
Oh yeah, that's a difficult one because there's no perfect vehicle. So there's going to be times on this bike trip when I'm going to be thinking, oh, I wish we had the truck.
Everything that we said about 4-wheel drive and the reasons why we started to ride in the first place. Yeah.
And
We love both.
we love both. And there's aspects of riding on bikes, being connected to where we are, being out in the environment more, which we really enjoy. Sleeping under the stars next to your bike, no tent in the desert, just having the coyotes yipping in the background is my piece of heaven. So, and that simplicity, just not having all the stuff, even though it's almost like I'm almost like a contradiction. Sometimes I love all the tech and I want all the toys and
To be
everything else and the
off-grid
comfort.
for longer.
And then sometimes I want the simplicity of just having two panniers and a roll bag, a few items, and living really minimally and traveling really minimally. And yeah, so we're just mixing it up a little bit.
What's going to be different about this trip than the last one in terms of your experience? Because you have so much more experience from the first Alaska
we
to
have way more
Argentina.
experience.
Yeah.
So
We've cut our teeth already now, haven't we? We know what we're letting ourselves in for. I, in theory, should know how to ride a bike. I should be able to just
after 4.5 years.
hit the
Yeah,
ground
for
running
sure.
after a warm-up period. Well, you'd think so in theory. We will see. And, we just ache now for our bikes. It's been 6 years, has it? Since the end of the last bike trip.
We went
yeah.
on bigger bikes. So
Oh, yeah.
we went on much heavier bikes. That then dictated where we could go. Even though we were told about this issue,
You're never going to wish your bike
you
was
never
heavier.
yeah.
We still opted for an 800
We
and a
still
650.
opted for a bigger bike, and if I'm honest with myself, my ego probably got in the way of it.
Probably.
The decision making a little bit, and the thought of going back to or going on a trip with really small bikes didn't appeal. But now, from the lessons we've learned, being out in the desert, being in situations where the bikes were too big, too heavy, the bikes were falling over, we're having to pick them up, we were doing this at elevation, we didn't have the energy, and
the difference in our riding abilities. I'm not saying I've closed that gap, but at least it isn't as extreme as it was going to be, as it was on the last bike trip. In theory I should have more confidence this time and a level of competence that I never had, for the first 2 years of the 4.5-year bike trip. It just took me a while to get the hang of it, get the ropes.
Yeah, so yeah, with that in mind, we're going to smaller dirt bikes.
Yay.
More dirt orientated bikes, which
Light
means that
bikes.
the bikes won't dictate where we go this time, because there has been occasions where we've got to, a trailhead somewhere, and I've looked at it and gone, that's far too technical for the bikes we've got.
The weight, I'm assuming.
And the weight, and at the end of the day, we're out to enjoy ourselves. Yes, it's nice to challenge yourselves, but you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're just making life hard for yourself, because then it becomes unpleasurable. You're not enjoying the trip. So
Jason is being kind as well. I've seen him ride in sand on his 800, and he's a pro. He's a master. He can handle himself. He's not a Dakar rider, but he knows what he's doing. Whereas because he had me in tow, then he can't ride slowly, but like I like to ride, painfully slowly. So it's a whole. We've thought about it much more carefully this time, and we learned from our hard lessons from last time, haven't we? We're just going to put all those lessons learned into practice this time, and I really hope it already feels like a much more smooth and seamless endeavour to approach this trip and get a little bit of support that we're looking for. We've got connections from the first trip and all that inside intel, having done it before. Knowledge is king, isn't it? We're doing exactly what we intended to do, what we've already done before again, but with the knowledge of having learned all the lessons. We've reflected and we've evaluated, and we can take all that best practice and incorporate it into this trip. So I really hope that is just going to stand us in good stead. And gosh, visiting all those people that we've met, as many as we can, when the universe aligns, to reconnect and reunite with all those fantastic people as well in the Americas.
Yeah, I was going to ask
really
if you
exciting.
had anything that you're really looking forward to, places that you'd like to go back to, or places that you didn't go to last time that you'd like to check out this time.
So
that might be revealed on the trip.
For
Stay
sure.
tuned.
There's one area in the Atacama Desert that's actually I really wanted to go and see, and we couldn't go and see it purely for the reasons that I described earlier, because the trail was too technical.
We had a Captain Slow
and
in tow.
I had to obviously consider Lisa's riding ability as well, because I couldn't, obviously if we got into difficulty, I can't ride both bikes at the same time.
Just not trying.
Jason, you're
just not
trying hard enough.
No.
Take one for the team.
So
He can tow me though. He has towed me before, bike to bike, a piece of rope. Several occasions he had to do that. You have towed me when my bike's broken.
Yeah.
That was never again.
Yeah.
What never again?
That's
Being
another
towed.
story. Well, towing a bike, it's how can I describe
especially
it?
on loose sand and grit and gravel.
Yeah, it's not something you want to do unless it's the last
Last
resort.
Get that
'Cause,
bike out of there.
Towing a bike from bike to bike, it can go wrong pretty fast. But sometimes
Rica.
it's the only option you've got. So,
That's where that happened.
but it's
Do you have some bikes you have your eye on? Is there anything you really are jonesing
so
for?
we've not put
As long as it matches my gear, my helmet, I don't really care.
we've got our eye on one bike. It might not be the bike, but it's definitely up there as a strong contender, and that's the KTM 500 EXCF. I wanted something that was light enough but had enough power that I was happy with, but not something that I felt that it was unmanageable for Lisa. It's a very tall bike, So it's definitely going to take a little bit of practice, especially for Lisa to get
Really
You
used
got
to.
this.
I have to
But
really
it's
wipe
like,
my neck in, put my big girl pants on. Oh, and I can put a seat concept in, which is lowering the bike with a custom seat. And I can, if Jason will allow me to lower the suspension, get that whole thing lowered a little bit.
During your last long-term trip, you had different bikes,
yes,
Same brand.
same
different.
brand. Which
Yeah.
were
the BMW 800 GS is what I rode, and Lisa had the 650 GS.
and now you're riding the same bike.
Yes.
Why?
I think
We can share tools,
the yes.
share parts, rape and pillage each other's parts on each other's bikes, perhaps to get one bike out of trouble. And you can also take off a part off my bike, put it on his to see if that's the problem. You can problem solve as well that way. We can ride each other's bikes. I mean, I could technically, I did ride Jason's 800 on a couple of occasions, but I never would have wanted to in an emergency situation, or really would have just had to. Whereas on bikes that we can both ride, because we're riding the same bikes anyway, it just seems to make so much more sense.
That's smart.
Yeah,
Is
we,
that
we
quite
should have done that
common
last time.
with couples
I
that
think-
they
yeah.
ride the same
Yeah,
style
yeah.
or
Yeah.
model? Sorry.
We know quite a few couples that ride the same bikes. And then you can set up your bike individually to how you each like to ride it. But at the end of the day, you can share parts and tools, I guess. Can't
Yeah,
you,
I
and
think
problem
that's one of the
solve.
main advantages is if you do have a breakdown, that you can basically scavenge parts off the other bike to at least test it to see whether that's the part that you need to replace.
It's consistent as well on images.
Mm.
There's no conflict of interest.
Right.
And all of
Good to
that.
know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been fun. I have one more question. What are your favorite books? Each of you. Number one.
Favorite
Book?
box?
Book. Number one.
Oh,
book.
Oh, wow.
My favourite fiction book is Where the Crawdads Sing.
What's that about?
It's about a lady who lives in the swamp. It's amazing. And it rocked my world. You need to read it.
And non-fiction. Did you say you had non-fiction as well?
Yeah. I loved New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Really opened my eyes from a spiritual perspective and just working out a few things about yourself. When you're looking at yourself introspectively, then New Earth by Eckhart Tolle is my favourite non-fiction. But I also love books by Sadhguru as well. He's really up there. He's my spiritual leader.
What does he write about? Most topics are about what is he writing?
He's writing about how to stay consciously aware from a spiritual perspective, how to stay present, becoming a realised being, all those good things.
I think for me, another one of Eckhart's books, Eckhart Tolle, is The Power of Now.
Ooh, good one.
So the power of now is basically looking at, this is the only moment we truly have. And if we stay in this moment, then that's the end of all your suffering. So that is the essence of the book. I mean, obviously he goes into it in a lot more detail and a lot better than I could ever explain it, but I would say that was probably my favourite book.
And the book I'm reading right now is Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. Also really good. Excellent read. Enjoying it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to come onto the Overland Journal podcast and chat with me
Sure, it was a
about
pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
your experiences and your hot tips for camping in the Nordic countries in the winter and
Don't do it.
going to Scotland and
You're
your
doing it.
new adventures on your bike, and I'm really looking forward to following along on your new adventure on your new bikes and watching your YouTube videos and continuing to read your beautiful pieces and enjoy your captivating photography. And yeah, if anybody wants to check out Lisa and Jason's work, it's quite frequently in Overland Journal. I don't know what the last article was, but I think there are quite a few photography focused ones, giving a whole series on capturing photos in different landscapes and conditions, so like in the dark and photographing water, and lots of good tips there.
Got a few more in the works.
Perfect.
Some pipeline content in there as well.
And then if people want to find you online, where do they go to find your website or social media?
So our website is www.fourwheelnomad.com.
All spelled out, no numbers.
FOUR.
Yeah.
Wheeled with an ED.
And the same on Instagram, 4-Wheel Nomad, and the same for Facebook.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
And soon, YouTube.
4-Wheel Nomad.
Great. Very looking forward to all of that. So yeah, thank you guys again, and thanks for listening to the Overland Journal podcast and watching if you're on YouTube. Thanks for taking the time to join us, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again.